Hi, Sean Huckster here again. Welcome down the Mighty Max rabbit hole. Today I'm going to do another Series 2 Doom Zone. Mighty Max Outwits Cyclops. Clearly, Cyclops. So let's start with the comic book and the story. So first, Max teleports into this dungeon. It is definitely a torture dungeon, which we'll discover. He first lands in this electric chair. That's what he teleports in. And he meets the chief torturer, who wants to feed him. Again, they like to feed Max to things. To the Mighty Eye. Now it's interesting because Mighty Max and Mighty Eye, Max even makes a comment that, hey, we have the same first name. So the torturer puts Max in a guillotine. Now Max grabs a nearby bucket and pushes it up before the blade hits him, and it smashes the bucket and prevents him from being beheaded. And this is for kids, people. And then the Mr. Eye shows up. That's the Mighty Eye. And he tries to kill Max. To eat him. A blue cage falls down, but it misses Max. And then Max lures the torturer into an Iron Maiden, slams the door, and leaves. Yeah, that's it. So let's talk about the Cyclops. Again, sometimes there's no real connection between the story and the head. Like, this is clearly a Cyclops, but there's no Cyclops in the story. Oh yes, I've been crafting again, so yeah, beware. Sharp blades. So the face is really sculpted, detailed, with purple, with green painted on top. You get the logo here. And one of the things that Mighty Max always does, or certainly most of the time, is makes part of the interior part of the exterior. And it does it in this way in 3 different ways, which is interesting. So one is this horn on the top of the Cyclops' head is part of the interior. And you can see it's a step. It's actually a stairway in the dungeon. Another is this eye, which many times Mighty Max sets the interior part forms part of the eye. But also these tendrils down here are all part of the same. These tentacles are part of the same eye, as you'll see when I open it. But the third part is this little tooth. He's got these ugly yellow teeth, and he's got this one purple one. And it seems out of place because it is not painted. It's actually molded in this kind of reddish purple plastic. And you'll see why that is in a minute, but I'm just a bit weirded out that they didn't paint it yellow just to match the other teeth. I mean, maybe it's supposed to be a diseased tooth. I'm not quite sure it's getting the point across there, but anyway. Let's open the set and see what we have. Beware, this is a torture dungeon. Now, before I even get into this, I'm going to talk about when I was a kid. I had the Aurora models, so I had like Frankenstein and the evil scientist, his lab. I had Igor. I had the victim, which was a female figure that you can't even buy anymore. I had Vampirella. But with these came these torture devices. There was an Iron Maiden. There was a rack. There was a pendulum and a guillotine. And I had a number of these. So, kids love this sort of stuff. And that was the 70s, too. So even in the 90s, kids loved horror and torture. It's really strange. So the first thing we do to open the set is you'll notice that there's a chin here. Now, you can pull down by the lip, but there's this perfect dimple that your thumb can fit right in. It's perfect, and it pulls the chin down. Now, the chin has these holes. This could be solid back here, but no, they didn't bother with that. They made it detailed. And then from right here, you can see the main character, the villain in this set, and that's the torturer. He almost looks very ape-like. Certainly not the way he's depicted in the comic anyway. And then once you've got the chin open, you just take this and lift up. And now you have the torture dungeon. And I mean, unlike the dungeon in the first series, this is clearly a torture dungeon. First of all, what do you notice? This big yellow eye. Of course, he's the villain. He's the Mighty Eye, the villain of the piece. And he just wants to eat Max, apparently. The torturer, on the other hand, seems like to torture things. And as you can tell, there are skulls and skeletons everywhere on this one. There's skulls here, there's skulls here, skull here, and we'll talk about up there later. But also, there are these little tiny versions of the eye, little baby eyes. So I don't know what the story is. Maybe he needs to eat to have babies. I don't know, or she, whatever the Mighty Eye is, you never know. But what you notice is torture devices. First of all, you've got the cage. In the comic book, they try to drop this cage on Max. Now here the cage comes away, It's oddly unpainted underneath. If you look around, all of these are like this. Clearly they placed it like this and then spray painted it and then just did the thing. Max's foothold is right here under the cage. So when you store this thing, Max is actually trapped in a cage. And then you have these stickers, these holes from the floor. There's these 3 holes here hold the cage, and these are just decorative holes, which have stickers underneath, which show more skeletons of poor unfortunate victims. And then a skeleton here. Then you've got this, which is a hinge for a well-sculpted Iron Maiden. Look at that thing. Creepy. It's like a skeleton with its claws kind of overlapping each other. And so that Iron Maiden opens up to reveal another poor victim, the wall back there, and yeah, spikes. Now, of course, they're very rounded here. They're not very sharp, but the point is there. And then you have a rack, a stretching rack where you stretch. You put your arms in here and you crank this thing and you stretch the person. And you have this prison over here. Now, this is interesting too because this is a purple doorway shaped like a demon's face, which is very reminiscent of the traditional English green man, which adorns many pubs and things in England and has a long, rich history in England. But he's purple. I don't know why they didn't do it in green. Maybe they didn't want to make that association. But inside, there is another sticker with more victims, and this is used as a prison. And then the comic, Max traps the torturer inside here. He traps him inside here, but he tries to lure Max into the cage. Max refuses to go. And here's the torturer. And he's an unarticulated figure, just a single solid piece of soft plastic. He's fairly well painted. He's got armor and silver. He's got blue hands. God, it's hard to see. And in his hand here is a cat o' nine tails whip, which actually you see in the cartoon as well. Put him here. And let's explore the upper deck. The stairs were the horn. They go right up to the upper deck. You have all these skulls down here and skeletons, so more unfortunate victims of the master torturer. Then you've got these torches. So you have torches on the wall, painted. Torches on the wall, painted. Torches on the wall, painted. One thing you're going to notice as you go through the Mighty Max sets is there's a lot of sets that have torches on the wall that are unpainted. I don't know why, because to me, they make interesting detail, but you kind of got to paint the torches. Back here, you got a sword and an axe. I mean, they're painted. So why not? Another torch up here, all painted. Then you've got a guillotine. Yep, honest to God, that's a guillotine. Look at that. There's blood there, so clearly this has been used. There's a table here with all sorts of bottles. Who knows? They may be poisons or unguents. I don't know what they are. And then there's this bucket. This is the bucket that in the cartoon Max grabs to prevent himself being beheaded. He takes this bucket, jams it between the blade as it's falling, and escapes. Then you take the stairs up one level, and there's a noose here, so that's another torture device. Another torch there. Skull up here. There's this tab. I don't know what this tab is. I'm going to show you in a minute where it goes. Well, I'll show you right now. It kind of goes down here, but it doesn't actually close this. It doesn't actually click into place or anything. It's just sort of there. So I don't know what the original intent of this was. Clearly, they had some idea of what they were doing. There's no slot back here or anything to attach there. And then you have machinery up here. And I would imagine that this machinery is designed to energize and power the electric chair. This is the chair Max teleports into in the beginning of the comic. Now, Max can stand on that, but of course he can't sit because we don't have a sitting Max. Oh, by the way, this is Series 2, and I have a Series 1 Max here. That's my fault. I accidentally put the Series 1 Max in here. So this is the tooth that I talked about earlier, the diseased tooth that should probably be painted maybe because it kind of looks like plastic here, whereas everything else is nicely painted. But this pops down, and it forms almost like a platform for a second, and then there's some sort of brass machinery back there, which may have something to do with, well, I don't know, maybe it's the cap that goes over the head when you use the electric chair on someone, although you can't see it when it's up. And then, of course, it pops down as well. So it forms almost like some piece of machinery down in this sort of lab area. Not quite sure what that's about. Anyway, it clicks into place. So one of the things I really want to point out is that this is the mighty eye. And of course, you'd think he belongs flat, but nope, he belongs upright. Now, he doesn't stand well on his own, but here's the wonderful thing. There are all sorts of places in the dungeon where he will stand. Because of the way the tentacles work, they are layered in such a way as you can sit him almost anywhere in the back of this dungeon, and his tentacles will sit up on the ledge, and the bottom tentacles will be on the floor. You can do it up here, anywhere really. You can even do it here. But it also, because he's hollow in the back, he can hang off these top bits too. So he can hang off this one and this one. But I'm convinced he's meant to stand in place. Like here, look at this. This tentacle up here and this tentacle over here sits on the lip of the set. And his tentacles are even, like there's one just a little bit raised and one lowered to fit the rack. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. It's well thought out. One other thing is, interestingly, this is soft plastic. So Max can be captured by the tentacle. You can actually wrap Max in the tentacle, which I think is, again, another slice of brilliance. And of course, you can actually capture him between two tentacles too, if you like. Maybe not a great example there, but his flexibility allows him to grab Max and trap him and stuff. Then we'll put the thing back. Now, Max sits back in here. We put Max down in his cage. Put the torturer, who has a spot right here, with a pin for his leg for one foot and no pin for the second, which you see a lot. And then the eye fits beautifully over the cage so that the tentacles just barely touch the torturer. They sit above this thing, around here, just so perfect that when you close this thing, it forms the tentacles of some sort of twisted, weird tongue, and you snap it shut. And that is Mighty Max Outwits Cyclops. I don't think there's much more to say about this one. Tune in for another Series 2 Doom Zone soon. There's only 2 left. I'm going to leave my favorite for last, so that's going to be a little bit of a surprise. But the surprise will be blown when I do the next one, because then you'll know that my favorite of the Series 2 will be the other one. Okay, that's it. Sean Huckster out. Enjoy.